Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Mike and Chet's Ultimate Tennis Podcast. Hey, Dad, thanks for joining me tonight.
No, it's always my pleasure.
Always my pleasure. Always great talking
Well,
with
we're not going to
you.
fight over that.
Okay, all right. Very gracious of you. Um, so we have a lot of interesting topics today. We mentioned the some of the major stuff happening that we want to talk about. Obviously, we had an incredible ATP finals happen in Turin. Excellent showing of tennis. The next chapter of the Sinner Alcaraz rivalry seems to be unfolding with maybe Sinner taking the lead coming into 2026 as I see he's picking up momentum and setting himself up, I think, to be the favorite over Alcaraz in 2026. We'll get into what you think soon, Dad. We got Rybakina and her coach. Some controversy going on there. Does she have an abusive coach? Does she not? Does a player have a right to override what the WTA says is a breach of their code of conduct? And last but not least, we're going to talk a little bit about parents and how to be a good parent to your junior high performance competitive tennis player and what that looks like. And obviously, Dad, you've seen it all through the years. Good parents, bad parents. Maybe you want to start with this topic because, and we were talking about it before the podcast, and you seem to be very opinionated when it comes to this, and rightfully so. You've seen it all. So to you, when it comes to being the parent of a high performance junior tennis player, what do you think are the few key ingredients to really set your kid up for success?
Well, the thing is that you don't want to put too much pressure on your kid. And I
Right.
see that all the time. Parents are putting so much pressure on their kid because the kid knows, the parents knows how much money they've spent on the kid, and they want some return on that. They want the kid to succeed, and rightly so. But there's a lot too much pressure to succeed. And you know what the best thing a parent could say to a kid after a match, win or lose?
I know because I've heard you say it before, but what is
Yeah.
it?
Best thing you can say to a kid is, I really like watching you play.
Right.
There's no pressure. If you say, oh, great, I'm so glad you won. It makes me feel great, all the effort we've put in. I don't like that because that means that the kid is in for a letdown. Now the kid, if
Yes.
he doesn't win the next time, parents are going to be so disappointed. And that's why it's best to just enjoy it. You've put in the effort. And, I love that. And I didn't make that up. I heard that from a sports psychologist in the States.
Okay.
That's the
Yeah.
best. I'd like to take credit for it, but, I didn't make it up. But I really agree with it.
Do you think that changes at a certain age? Do you think once a kid reaches, 15, 16, maybe you're looking at, am I going to go play Division One tennis? Am I going to, maybe pursue this as a career? Do you think it changes at a certain age where maybe the parent takes on a role beyond just, I love seeing you play to, let's maybe focus on trying to win a little bit more?
Well, I think the parent's job is to encourage the kid, make sure the kid's working hard, because yes, they are investing a lot, time-wise, money-wise. So as long as they know that the kid is trying his best, then that should be good enough.
Right.
Um, but yeah, yeah, it's not, there should be no pressure to win. There shouldn't be too much praise when they win because that again puts the pressure on them. Now they're afraid to lose. Best thing a parent can do, watch the match, go to the matches, as long as it doesn't upset the kid. Go to the matches, watch, don't make faces. That's the other thing you see a lot. The kid will miss an easy shot, and the parent will go, "Oh my God, how could you miss that?"
Right.
You don't want to
Right.
do that stuff. Just watch the
Yes.
match and enjoy it.
Yeah. And that kid's always watching, you know, especially, if that kid, for whatever reason, it's not necessarily the parents' fault. I remember, you know, especially as I was younger, I'd be very conscious if you were watching me play, whether you were watching, whether you weren't, whether you were present, whether you weren't, as much as you want to play it cool, if you have a parent who's, into what you're doing, and it's very difficult to just completely ignore the parent. So I think understanding that as a parent, that your actions have a significant impact on what your child is doing and how they perceive their success. As long as you're aware of that and you act accordingly, like you said, I think that's awesome. Kind of being
Right.
non-reactive, supportive, there to support your kid
Yeah.
play, no matter win or lose, whatever. It's about them enjoying the game and
I
improving
mean, I
and
always like to quote
staying in it.
the Japanese Olympic women's volleyball coach. They were one of the best women's volleyball teams in the world, Japan. And his philosophy was practice is for crying, competition is for laughing. You
Mm,
know, you work as hard as you can, maybe even to the point of tears. You're practicing so hard, so physically exerting. And then when it comes to the match, that's your reward. Just
right.
relax, play hard, concentrate, and enjoy.
Yeah, it's almost like you should be trained to the point where you're kind of in autopilot almost. You've seen this all before. You shouldn't be thinking, what's my body doing, moving this way or that way. For the most part, it becomes beyond just your movement, your body movement, your strokes, your technique. Should be mostly thinking about strategy, and those reps you did in practice should carry you through a lot of the things, like you certain steps, split stepping, the proper form in your forehand and backhand. You shouldn't be thinking, how am I going to execute this forehand technically when you're in a match? You should be thinking about, you
Done.
shouldn't be thinking low to high impact out in front. You want to be to the point where you're thinking, what am I about to do with this ball? What's going to be
Yep.
my strategy? It changes from technical to strategic.
Yeah. But this is what I tell all my students through the years, that once you get into the match, you can't be thinking of technique.
Right.
You can think of early preparation and that kind of stuff, but you can't be thinking of, well, how am I going to hit a forehand? Now, if you can't hit a forehand by the time you get into a match, then that's a problem.
Right, for
Yeah.
sure.
You've
And another
practiced.
thing that, we were going over, and I'm seeing more and more the value in this is the fitness side of things. This week, thanks to you, you've helped, bounce the ideas off of and help me develop the exercises, etc. The UTT fitness performance pathway, and ensuring that, your body is physically fit enough to execute your strategy.
The thing
You can
is,
have a strategy all you want. If you're exhausted during the match and you don't have it in you physically to execute the strategy, then you're not going to do it. Your fitness level has to match that skill level as well.
I'll tell you what that is, not being in shape, is that's distracting. If you're in a match against a worthy opponent, and all of a sudden, I'm out of breath, or my legs are tired, or you can't be
Right.
thinking it. That's distracting um, to
To your
what you're trying to
strategy.
do.
Right. Same
Yeah.
with the technical. You don't want to be thinking about that. You don't want to be thinking you're tired and out of shape. You want
Yeah.
to feel good, you know?
You can think of tricks to um, relax you, let's say.
Right.
Breathing in and out 10 times during in between points and stuff like that. Those are tricks to relax you, but
Right.
not tricks to all of a sudden get some good cardiovascular fitness.
Right.
That should be
And,
done already.
and do you think, it's such an important part of the game? Parents, going back to that subject, when parents think of what their kids need to be successful as a competitive tennis player, when do you think that fitness side of things come into play for a junior?
Well, I think everybody, kids that are 11, 12 years old, they're all in shape, I think. They don't have to worry about
I,
that.
I, I don't think it's a matter of, I've seen some, I think, you know, as the years have gone on, I remember as a kid being in camp, etc. All the kids were in incredible shape. I think now you're seeing a variance, and maybe it's just a commentary on our time. But I'm seeing a lot of kids who kind of have the skills on court, but in they're not necessarily the most coordinated kids.
Yeah. The other thing with that fitness is as you get older, the game is more vigorous and your fitness will come to play more because, these younger kids, they're hitting the ball back and forth, etc. But now it's physically demanding, putting everything into a serve, hitting the ball hard, moving faster. Then you have to be in better shape.
Right. Right.
But that
So
has to continue to be stressed.
yes.
Fitness is so important as you get older. And I mean, even at the pro level, you've seen it before, where a player gets gassed.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
of
yeah,
course.
that happens.
Happened to the best of them, you
Yeah,
know,
for sure. For
you
sure.
know. But when it comes to developing coordination, athleticism, there's a certain amount that's talent that's natural, and there's a certain amount that's taught. I think there's always more that an athlete can do to become more athletic, more coordinated, building their body specifically tuned in for tennis. Because you talk about in shape, there's a spectrum of being in shape. What are you in shape for? And if you're thinking I'm going to be a high performance, I'm going to compete at the highest level in tennis, you've got to have a tennis body. Your body has to be in tennis shape. As you know, I've been taking up boxing. You hear that, everyone? Don't mess with me now because I know boxing. Okay? But you can be in boxing shape. Some of the movements are similar, but just because you're in great boxing shape doesn't mean you're in great tennis shape, and vice versa. So it's sport specific. And I think once you're getting to that high competitive level, your training has to change beyond just, okay, I'm doing some push-ups and sit-ups and general fitness and going for a jog to now I'm going to train these specific exercises because I want this specific outcome in my sport.
Yeah, the movement has to be specific to tennis. There's
Exactly.
a lot more plyometrics in tennis, rather than the brute strength stuff.
Exactly.
Because if you can bench press 300 pounds, how
How's that
much
going
is
to
that
help
going to
you?
help your tennis?
That's not necessarily translating into your serve,
No, for sure
right?
not. For sure
Right?
not. Although Agassi was, I don't know if I believe this or not, but Agassi could bench press 3 plates. That's 315
I
pounds.
know that's the questionable thing. I've never seen a video of it. I'd
Hmm.
love to see a video of it. I wonder if anybody has any footage because I've heard that for a long time that he was a big
Yeah.
bench presser and such a light guy, and
I mean,
I,
he looked strong, but
that's
why is
wild.
bench press good for tennis?
He's
Anyway,
one of the only guys to actually strength train to the degree that he did.
yeah.
Um, I don't
Well,
think
he did
many
okay.
guys.
He
Yeah, he
didn't
did
do
all
bad.
right. He won a
He didn't
few
do
Grand
bad.
Slams, no big deal.
Yeah. Anyways, let's go with the bottom line, parents and their kid.
Okay.
And I think a couple of things. I think number one, do not put pressure on your kid. You can put pressure on your kid when he's practicing.
Effort. I think you can
Yeah,
put pressure on the effort.
that's correct.
If your
If you
kid
can
is
see the
not
kid's
giving
being lazy,
effort, yes,
yeah,
then you have the right to put some pressure, I think.
yeah, if
The
he's not
effort's
trying.
there, the effort's there. There's no need for pressure.
Right, right. So when you're watching your kid, like I said many times, the best thing you can say to a kid after a match, but when you're watching a kid, try not to make any facial expressions.
What
I
about
mean,
a smile? Can you
yeah,
smile?
you can smile when he hits a good shot,
Okay.
but yeah, that positive facial expressions
Right.
okay. Negative
Positive only.
expression, facial expressions, no. And I've seen parents, go crazy. Kid misses a shot, they're looking down, and of course, the kid's always looking at the parent. How does he
Of
feel
course.
or she feel?
Of course.
Yeah. So that's the thing with that. Yeah.
Mhm. I'd also,
There is a theory, which I don't mind either, which when your kid goes to a tournament, disappear.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, let the kid play. Let the kid fight for himself.
Right.
Like parents get involved now. They're at all the matches. They're driving their kids to the matches. When I was playing, and I was a competitive table tennis player also, when I was playing, I took the bus. I remember taking the subway to Masaryk Hall on Queen and Cowan, which was far from where I lived,
Hmm.
um, to play table tennis. Took the bus by myself. I was 17 years old. Took the streetcar by myself. Stayed all day there at the table tennis tournament. Had a sandwich for lunch at the table tennis tournament, and took the streetcar home in the early evening.
Right.
I was by myself. There's no parents supporting. I mean, my
Right.
parents supported me.
Yes, but not
They,
physically
yeah,
there.
that's correct. That's
Right.
correct. I mean, there's not enough of that today. So, but I understand parents are spending a great deal of time and money on their kids. They want to see the match.
Yeah.
Just behave properly when you're
Right.
watching. And no way, under any circumstance, should the parents interfere with the match.
And the
Bad
OTAs.
calls, etc. Don't get on the referee.
Yeah.
That's very bad.
Oh, of course. I mean, from the tournament director's point of view, we're taught to not engage with the parents. If
Yes.
there's once the kid takes court, the kid has to come get us. We're not allowed to talk to the parent. The kid, and they're told right from the beginning, as it pertains to the OTA rules, we cannot communicate with parents of athletes about their matches while the match is going on. If the athlete has a problem, they can leave the court if we're not already on the court and come get us. And I think there's lessons in that for a kid to stand up for themselves and it takes the parent meddling out of the equation. So I think that's a good step. And speaking of awkward relationships among teams in tennis, I mean, what do you make of the Rybakina situation and her
Okay,
coach?
I've got a couple of views on that. First of all, I don't know exactly what happened.
Right. Do you want to
I
give a
heard,
little bit of a rundown of the
yeah,
story behind this for some of our viewers who might not
yeah.
know about it?
Rybakina had this Croatian coach named Vukov,
Right.
and it was her coach since from 2019, took her through till she won Wimbledon in 2022, and then all of a sudden, the WTA comes in and says, well, he was behaving abusively towards Rybakina.
Right.
And they parted, and the WTA banned him from coaching her. And the bottom line was a few months later, he appealed it and got reinstated, and Rybakina wanted him reinstated. So, first of all, I don't know what happened. I know he wasn't accused of physical abuse. He was accused of verbal abuse,
Right.
mental abuse. But how do you judge that? I mean, if you if you went by mental abuse and verbal abuse to your student, you'd have to ban half the coaches in tennis. I'm not saying I condone that,
Right.
but sometimes to get something out of a student, it could be like borderline
Right. Where do
yelling
you
at
draw
them.
the line? And I've known a ton of athletes over the years, not necessarily tennis, but in all sports, that it almost gets to that borderline abusive level when it comes to high performance. I think the distinction is what is, what is for the positive. Is it positively affecting the athlete and their mindset and their confidence and their discipline or whatever you're trying to get out of them as a coach and the athletes on board and consenting? And then what is, an unfair power dynamic where the athlete is trapped and can't do anything back. I mean, then that's something to be
Well,
serious about. I mean, Rybakina has come out defending Vukov. She's obviously um, she's won the finals, end of year finals, refused to take a picture and shake the hand of the WTA
yes,
president over this
yes.
whole ordeal. So obviously she's taken her side and feels very strongly in support of her coach. And then again, people who've been close to Rybakina have come out and said, this is an abusive relationship.
Well,
So it's very difficult to see exactly what the truth is. It's almost like there's his side, there's her side, and then there's the truth, right?
Goran
Somewhere in the
Ivanisevic,
middle.
Goran Ivanisevic, who was coaching her
Yeah,
after Vukov left, um, when Vukov came back, Goran said, "I can't work with this guy.
right,
Like
right.
what's going on, I can't be a part of it." So there has to be something in it.
Yeah, no, there's a certain level of intensity there that doesn't seem comfortable. I mean, from the outside looking in as a professional coach, um, you look at that and I don't know, what would you say? Like if the Rybakina team reached out and said, you know, Mike, could you come out and help us with this or that? If you're going into that camp with that kind of rumor going around, are you wary as a coach as to whether you're actually going to accept it or not, or look into it, or
Well, I'd have to see it for myself
right, right.
because I don't know.
You don't know
I
one way or
don't
the
know
other.
what they saw. I don't know what they heard. It has to be something.
Right.
Now, college basketball in the U.S. This brings this to mind. Here's a coach named Bobby Knight from
Of course.
Indiana. Bobby Knight was the most abusive coach around. Like he'd shove his players, and he's
Right.
beyond the limit. And you ask every one of his players, would they play for him again? Everybody says yes, because he was a champion. They won
Right.
the NCAA division. They won March Madness because that was his method. So they must have thought, well, he's a great guy, but he's behaving abusively.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I mean,
so I don't know what
training.
you do,
Sorry,
what
go
you
ahead.
have to see to say no. Like obviously, like if he's hitting her,
Oh,
obviously
yeah,
you got to kick him out.
of course.
If he's, swearing at her, I probably still you'd have to kick him out.
No,
But
I don't think so. I mean, I know of
but
situations with players and you know, it's let's put it this way. There's how they are when they're on stage, and there's how they are when the curtains close,
well,
right? And a lot of these players, and coaches as well, because they're in that world, they have that edge to them
mhm.
where, they have this fighting spirit, and
That's
it's
fine.
swearing is swearing off limit. No.
It's fine. Well, I know I have never said a swear word to one of my students, in
No, no, no,
50
no.
years of coaching.
No, I'm not talking about that at all. I'm just saying that, especially at the recreational level or something. But if you're in that situation, you're trying to get a little bit more out of your student. What sounds better? Let's go, or let's effing go.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if that's acceptable. But you know what? Also, it's Rybakina's coach.
Yeah,
She can fire him anytime.
of course, of course.
But obviously, he took her from, not that much to winning Wimbledon.
I know.
And
And
there's
and to
something to
sh
be said about his coaching methods.
and to shift onto the positive side, Rybakina just received the largest single purse in women's sporting history by
Yes.
winning the WTA finals. I think it was 5.5 million or something like that.
US. Yep.
US in one single. So, I mean, one single payment. I mean, that's through all this turmoil. I mean, that's a very significant
Did he get a
accomplishment. And
percentage?
I'm sure he
Is that
does.
his deal?
I'm sure he does.
Got
Yeah.
paid got paid so much per swear word,
Yeah.
boil it
I mean,
down.
when it comes to that, it's really just about reading the situation and the player. Not saying it
Okay.
works. I'm not saying it works for everybody. But when it comes to certain team events, I'm talking, college sports, I'm talking Davis Cup, I'm talking Laver Cup, any of those things where you get a bunch of highly competitive people together. Um, I mean, things get intense. That's the
Well,
nature of it.
yeah. Bottom line for me.
There's a difference though between intensity and abusive.
Abuse. Bottom line for me is I would have to know a lot more details before
Right.
I make judgment on that,
Right.
and which I don't know. And I don't know if anybody really knows. I haven't seen it anyways. I haven't seen it in print, what the details are. And who's the judge? One person from the WTA?
Yeah.
How do they judge? I don't know.
True.
So, bottom line, Chet, if you had to make a decision, where would you edge towards, Vukov or the WTA?
I mean,
Without, of course, knowing details, but right now, knowing what you know,
if I had to make a guess, and I think too many people now are scared to make a guess. This is a guess, people. Okay.
a guess. Yeah, we don't
I
know the
have no
details.
clue what's going on. Okay.
Yeah.
This is a guess. I would guess that he has been abusive. And I would guess that to, I would go on the side that it's, it's not enough to ban him from coaching her anymore. I don't think it would be enough. I think it would be, I don't think, I don't think that would be, I think that would be too much to ban him. Right.
Yeah.
I think,
Now, what right do you have to ban a coach?
right,
Anyways, I mean, she's got parents, she's got the rest of her team.
right,
Maybe they've reported stuff.
right.
Could be
Maybe,
too.
maybe.
Well, I would say too. I say there's where there's smoke, there's fire. There has to have been some
There
abuse.
has to have been some incidences,
Yeah.
um, but I don't know if it's to the severity that it would be necessary to ban him from
Well,
coaching.
I'll tell you what happened though. I mean, he was reinstated after 4 months. He
Right,
appealed it and got reinstated.
right,
So they're probably saying, what we're saying. Yes, there was some abuse, but not enough
right,
to keep up the ban.
right.
Anyways, I wish her well, and
Yeah,
she's a
yeah.
great player. I love the
I
way
mean,
she.
there's a lot of incidences. I mean, and I know some great tennis pros. And if you walk by their court and hear the odd comment and not get the full context of what they're saying, you might be like, "What did they just say? Is that an acceptable thing to say to someone?" But you've just heard that one little snippet. You don't know the whole story, and I think
Exactly.
that's the bottom line. We don't know the whole story, so let's just
Well, like I've said,
see how this
I'd have to
unfolds.
see what evidence they have
Right,
to make a better decision. But just like you, um, my hunch is yes, he was abusive enough to ban him. Probably not.
right, right.
Okay, good. We've
And
settled that.
yeah. I mean, so guys, to be continued. We're gonna cut this episode here and we're gonna do a little reaction clip. Now, we're gonna leave it in as a separate video. So go check that out. We're about to react to the 2015 Wimbledon semifinals, labeled as potentially the greatest game of tennis played of all time, Andy Murray versus Roger Federer. Click on that video. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. Like, subscribe, comment. Dad, thank you so much for joining me. I love
Always my
chatting with
pleasure.
you. My pleasure. My pleasure. Thanks, everyone. See you soon.
Great. Thank you.